welcome to Real Women Trade. This platform is about one thing, showing how women actually trade with discipline, integrity, and real execution. Today, I am excited to have Nanicrypto. You can tell by her name what she trades, which is new to me because I primarily trade stocks and options. And so I'm looking forward to hearing what she trades and how she trades and learning more about the crypto market. So welcome, Nanicrypto.
Hey, TJ, how are you? Thank you so much for having me.
I'm excellent. So tell me, how did you get into crypto?
8+ years ago, so back in 2017, somebody told me I should buy Bitcoin. Back then, I didn't actually know what crypto was. I'm like, I don't know what that is. Went down a very long black hole and a rabbit hole of just trying to figure out what crypto was and what to do. And I guess initially, yes, I bought Bitcoin, and unfortunately that got lost because I didn't know what I was doing. But I was under the impression that I could just figure it out on my own, and I very quickly figured out that that wasn't the case.
So did you get a mentor? Like how did you get to where you are now?
So I found a guy in the US that taught me a very cool trading strategy. And by the way, I had never looked at a chart in my life. It's not like I come from a trading background. So I'm a programmer by trade. And when this charting thing is not me, I don't want to sit there looking at charts all day. But he taught me a very cool strategy. And then he would do the intermediate advanced, and I would do the beginners for anybody doing his course. And I must say, 7+ years later, love what I do. I coach people. I've obviously spent years making the mistakes, doing everything. And I'm not only a trading coach, but I'm also a Web3 coach. So I teach people how to get involved with crypto. And basically, TJ, I didn't get a mentor, but I've spent the time making the mistakes so you guys don't have to.
I see. Well, that's, yeah. I don't think any of us have totally learned any type of trading on our own. I mean, whether for me back in the early 2000s, it was through books because that's all that was available. But definitely that's what I needed. I needed somebody to teach me about charts and how to read them. So tell me, so you're not in the US. Where are you?
I'm in Australia, on the other side of the world.
Oh, okay.
So I'm Colombian-born. So I speak Spanish as well. So I'm Colombian-born, but I've lived here most of my life. So yeah, I'm in Australia.
Okay, right on. Do you travel to the US at all?
Really? I don't really travel to the US that much. It's actually quite funny because when I came across the videos that you've done, it was through some of the people that I've seen, some of the people that I follow on TikTok. So Bullish Bay being one of them, and that's how I came across your channel.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I love the work that she's doing.
Yes, she's amazing.
She is, yeah, very amazing. Tell me, because I come from the stock world, the whole, and we use brokerages such as Fidelity, Schwab, Robinhood. I know that you can trade crypto on Coinbase, but besides that, I know very little about it. I do trade the ETFs of Bitcoin and Ethereum, so I track the chart and everything, but I don't actually own or hold Bitcoin. And I understand that there's wallets, but I don't really know what that means in comparison to a brokerage firm. So will you explain that to me?
Of course. So a brokerage is someone who does it for you, if you will. You send them your assets or your fiat, which is USD, AUD in my case, and then you buy. It's like you are involved, like you're getting a piece of the pie, but you're not actually holding the asset. You're not an owner of the Bitcoin or the Ethereum or whatever the asset, the digital asset that you're looking at. The reason I don't do that is, one, because I've done the education so that I know what I'm doing. But number two is because I'm a big fan of holding the asset myself, because I do promote self-custody, because the reality is that most exchanges out there at some point have been hacked in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I do is, so I send over my fiat, again, AUD in my case. I then buy the crypto, and then that crypto I either leave on an exchange, the likes of Binance, there's quite a few out there, Binance, Mexi, KuCoin. I trade the asset, usually against USDT. So what's USDT? USDT is a stable coin that is pegged to the value of the dollar, the US dollar. And then, when that that trade is profitable, I then end the trade. And when I get to a certain amount, then I start sending it back to my cold wallet. A cold wallet is just it's a physical device that I can send my asset to, and it's just a way to keep it offline and off an exchange where it may be more vulnerable. And I am not an owner of it on an exchange. On a cold wallet, I am.
I
Does that
see.
make sense?
Yeah, no, I that makes sense to me. So I'm assuming you hold long-term stable coins and you trade them. Is that correct?
Correct. So I have the likes of Bitcoin, Ethereum. I do have a portfolio of digital assets of projects that I believe will increase in price over time, Bitcoin being one of them. And then when I'm trading, I'm using the stable coin, so either USDT or USDC. And I usually have those either in trading or I've got them ready for maybe a dip in the market, but I do hold both.
Okay. The other thing that's confusing to me is there seems to be literally hundreds of I think they're stable coins, but every day or every few days it seems like another one pops up, and I don't how do you know what they are, what their purpose is, and how do you know which ones actually are holding value that are going to go up?
Correct. So there are thousands
Oh,
of
okay.
cryptocurrencies. We're talking thousands, unfortunately. Well, unfortunately, in the sense of it can be quite overwhelming when you're trying to figure out what asset to look at. How do I know, like you said, which one I should be looking at? And that's where DYOR is very important, which is do your own research, right? So what we do when we look at these projects, and there's a few things you can look at. Some of the things that I look at is number one is the utility that that project has. I'll give you an example. For example, Ethereum is a layer one coin. So you've got layer one and layer twos. Layer ones are the ones that live on their own blockchain, and layer twos are the ones that are built on other blockchains. These are coins and these are tokens, just to give you a bit of context. So something like Ethereum, as I said, there are other tokens that are built on that. And Ethereum is very good because it uses the whole smart contracts concept. So I believe it's going to be around for a very long time because of that utility that it offers on its blockchain. Now, so that's the first thing I look at. The second thing I look at is, okay, what does that roadmap look like? What is their plan? Where are they going to put, in the case of Ethereum, these smart contracts? Do they have partnerships coming up, or are they already existent? So finding out what that roadmap looks like is important. The community is another really big part in crypto, because the reality is when you have, for example, XRP has the XRP army. So when you have a big community like Pudgy Penguins does, then you have a lot of people out there, not even a promotion as such, but just believing in the community, therefore they won't be selling their assets. So community, website, socials, also a big thing. What are they putting out there? What are they telling the community? What are they working towards? It's a lot of things that we look at, but again, it's the best way to kind of figure out, am I holding this long term? Or maybe am I just getting in for the trade and that's it?
Tell me, there seems to be talk of when Bitcoin or Ethereum, they'll go on these big, massive runs in a cycle. And I've heard of a 4-year cycle. For one, is that true? Is that reality? And what causes that cycle?
So the 4-year cycles, and I'm going to go off experience, because while I don't have a crystal ball and I don't know what's going to happen in the future,
Right.
And yes, the past doesn't predict exactly what will happen, but just to get an idea. So I've been now in 3 cycles. What does that mean? Is that because I started in 2017, every 4 years there is a cycle. Now that cycle was directly linked to the halving. Do you know what the halving, the Bitcoin halving is?
Well, no. So tell our
Okay.
listeners what it is.
So the Bitcoin halving is a time in every 4 years when it basically divides by half the amount that miners get when they mine a block on the Bitcoin chain. Okay, so that's every 4 years. And I'm not saying that every 4 years was the halvening, but usually there'd be a halvening, and then
Mhm.
2 years later, there was a cycle. And that was
Mhm.
happening pretty much consistently over the last 7, 8 years. Now, the difference now is back then we had a lot of retail, I guess, was, people like you and me just buying crypto, and that
Mhm.
was probably, yes, there were people with a lot of money, which what we call crypto whales, and that's fine. But I feel like it's changed significantly because now we're looking at a few other things, and you've already mentioned one of them, which are the ETFs,
Mhm.
right? So
Yep.
you've got big institutional money going, look, I don't want to worry and I don't care to own the crypto asset
Mhm.
myself, but I'm very aware of, like you said, runs that have been predicted on Bitcoin going to 1 million. I want to have a piece of that pie. So we've got big institutional money coming into those ETFs, which I do believe will change the cycle. Whether that's completely or
Mhm.
slightly, I don't know. But even just the last cycle that we had, so it was meant to be 2025-ish,
Mhm.
because the last one was 2021, so 2025-ish, probably towards the end of it. Yes, we saw a bit of a run, and we also saw Bitcoin hit $126,000 just around October last year.
Yeah.
But usually that cycle, it hits and it keeps running and running, and you got all your altcoins. And I'm like, wait, what happened? Where'd it go? Like,
Yeah.
it wasn't what we expected. Now,
Mhm.
again, there was a lot of things that I think, mixed together might have changed that. Again, we're talking institutional ETFs, but I do also think with the, world news, obviously things happening over in the Middle East, a new US president at the time, I think a lot of that may have changed the way that cycled. I guess while the prediction was one thing, the reality
Mhm.
was another.
Mhm. So based on all your research, what do you see in the future for, and I don't necessarily mean numbers for Bitcoin or
Yeah.
Ethereum, but as far as the average person using this, or maybe the dollar going away, like, what do you see happening?
Yeah. So I'm a big fan of believing that Bitcoin has created an opportunity, not just Bitcoin, but crypto has created an opportunity for your average person
Mhm.
to create generational wealth. Okay, so not everybody is privy to that, but today you can now purchase Bitcoin from as little as 10 or $20. And I think that's also a misconception. People believe you have to have whatever the price is now. I think it's like $75,000 to buy Bitcoin. No, you can buy small amounts. And then you accumulate that over time so that it then increases in value. Okay, and I
Mhm.
believe that's going to create generational wealth. So, regardless of whether you are into trading,
Mhm.
like both you and I are into, or whether you just decide to buy small amounts, I do believe that crypto isn't going anywhere.
Mhm.
If we go back, 10, 15 years, yes, it was of the dark webs and only used for, illicit things and stuff like that. These days, it is going mainstream.
Mhm.
More and more people are talking about it. Governments are buying into it,
Right.
uh, right? And they're
Yeah.
creating. And I'm not talking for buying one Bitcoin. I'm talking creating a. Now we are the country that owns the most Bitcoin. You know what they say? Do as they say, do as they do, not as they say, right?
Right.
Because
Right.
I don't know how it works in the US, but when we try and buy crypto here in Australia, even when you're trying to do a transfer via the bank account, they block our transactions
Mm.
because, of course, they don't want us to take away their play money, right?
Right. Right.
So to me, again, being part of this space is just being, I have the opportunity to do something I couldn't have done without, again, being privy to, I guess, wealth that was from the past, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. So the great thing is, because you know how to read a chart, it really doesn't matter last October, November, when Bitcoin and Ethereum broke structure and started coming back down. You weren't going to hold everything. You know, I mean, if a person is only buying based on fundamentals, then maybe they're still holding back from those highs. But I know that you saw what was happening, and just because it had been in a cycle, you trade what you see, not what you want to happen, right? Hope is not a strategy. So
no emotional trading. Absolutely.
That's right. So tell me what you saw last fall, and how did you handle the situation?
I actually want to go back a little bit further, and I'll explain to you why. Let's go back to October, November 2024.
Yes. Oh, okay.
And the ride started because there was a big hype back in October, November. Now, the reason that happened was more linked to the US presidency. They had already spoken about, you know, we are going to make US the crypto capital of the world, things like that. Crypto was in the mouths of people that were being heard, if you will.
Yeah, sure.
So there was a bit of a run then. And I'm not going to lie, back in October, November, I was taking profits on assets I had held for years. You know, I took profits on things like XRP, BNB, Link, not Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other assets. So that was the first run. We then saw the inaugural speech, kind of a bit of a fizz out. Nothing really happened. And then we kind of got to July, and July was another key point in time, because in July, and again, I know there are some concepts here, so I want to make sure I explain them. There's a concept of the ISO 20022, which is a standardization of communication. And basically, there was a handful of assets, there was 8 of them, digital assets, that were compliant to this new standardization. Now, that was supposed to go live in July. And I remember because it was the day before my birthday. And again, there was another hype, and there was another reason for some of those assets to start going up again. Again, took a little bit of profit. And by the way, I'm a huge fan of taking profit. I'm not a fan of holding forever, marrying yourself to an asset, and then road tripping. And what I mean by road tripping is they get in that 50 cents, it goes to $2. No, it's going to keep going up. And then they sell at 40 cents and say, I lost money in crypto. So you got to be aware of that. And then let's move to October, which is what you were asking about. So October was the all-time high. Now, I'm not going to lie, I haven't sold my Bitcoin. And the reason I haven't sold Bitcoin is because my plan, and I think this is crucial for anyone in crypto, whether you're trading or whether you're a long-term holder, you need to have a plan.
Yeah, for sure.
You need to have a plan and a strategy, because the moment you don't, when the market does pull back, or when the market does what it's going to do, you're panic selling, or you're following in, which is the fear of missing out. You haven't even looked at a chart. You don't know what's happening. You're just following the crowd, which I don't do. So the reason I don't sell my Bitcoin is because I have a plan of reaching X amount of Bitcoin. And until I reach that, I have no intention of selling. Having said that, some of these other assets had run significantly. And again, I was taking profits again. And what I was doing was I was taking profits from those digital assets, leaving them in stable coin, again, your USD equivalent, ready for that whenever that buy-in. So as you can imagine, when we saw Bitcoin hit 60,000 earlier this year, I was just buying a little bit more here and there, and I'm buying a few other assets that I'm accumulating as well. So it is important to know, and I say this to everyone, whether it's someone who's done my crypto trading course or whether it's someone who's just dollar cost averaging, before you even hit that buy button, you should already know, am I trading it? Am I holding it long term? Because I do think that exit strategy is why so many people lose in crypto, because they don't know what to do. Again, you should have a plan. If the market goes up, if we go to Bitcoin $1 million, what are you doing? If the market goes sideways for the next 6 months, You know, there are people that put money into crypto, which is like, oh, but I put my rent money in or my college money. I need to take it out, and now I'm down. No, no, no. You don't put in anything into crypto you can't afford to lose. And then what happens if it dips? Do you buy the dip, which is a very common term in crypto? Do you buy the dip because you're accumulating? Or do you freak out like everyone else and just sell at a loss because you didn't have a plan? I really do think that exit strategy is a vital part of anyone being involved with crypto.
Well, I think that's the same for stocks.
Yep.
It's still, if you are going to you're just sold on the story of a company and you want to hold them for the long term and you're just going to dollar cost average, then you don't really care what the chart looks like because
Exactly.
you have a plan and what every month I'm going to put in $100 towards Microsoft or whatever. And it's a long-term generational hold for you. It's the same. Trading is trading, regardless of the asset. So
Now, I would like to mention something just based on what you just said, and that is probably one, and again, this is not from experience. From what I've heard, I understand that probably the biggest difference with crypto and stocks, crypto is high risk, crypto is high volatility, and I'm talking thousands getting wiped up in an hour, right? So that's the one thing you have to remember, because my understanding is of things like if you're looking at Forex or stocks, the moves are quite, you can still make money in them, but the moves are quite small.
Right.
Crypto is like, and I kid you not, I can be, just to give you an example, I was in a trade last week and I got in, and I'm very, because Bitcoin is kind of still figuring out what it's doing, I'm making small trades, 10,
Sure.
20%. I don't need to make 1,000% like some of these people that go and say, I'm going to make you rich overnight. It's not my plan at all. But so I made my trade. I got in, I got out. And to me, profits are profits. My plan was executed and I got out. The coin continued to go up and I left it. And then 2 days later, because I had a couple of busy days, I think it was over the weekend, I came back. It had plummeted 90%.
Wow.
Now, could I have taken advantage of the run from where I last sold to the top? Yes, I could have. Absolutely. But I do believe if you try and catch the top, you'll never sell. And if you try and catch the bottom, you'll never buy. So I don't do that. And the other thing that I truly believe in is because my strategy is so clear. So in the strategy that I teach, we have you will buy in if A, B, or C, which is why I bought in, because all those three confirmations were there. And you exit if X, Y, Z. And once that take profit was there, I got out. So I'm very, as you said, very disciplined and very strategic on what I do without worrying what the chart's going to do. But again, when you don't have that clear strategy and you add the volatility of crypto.
Yeah. Well, I understand that because I trade options and you could lose, you could lose the whole thing, and especially with your time decay. So yeah, I'm really familiar with that. Before I ask you about your strategy, would you suggest to people that want to get into crypto that both want maybe hold something, a stable coin long term, and also want to trade, to have two different accounts? So like in one account, maybe hold Bitcoin or another wallet, or you explain it to me, and a separate trading account where you can make those trades in and out and still, and then once you make your profit, move it over into your Bitcoin. What would you suggest?
Okay. My earphones just beeped again. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. So to me, the best strategy is, and I'm just going to use round numbers. So let's just say you want to hold $500 worth of crypto and you want to trade $500 worth of crypto. What I would do is I would send the $500 to your exchange of choice. That could be Coinbase, Binance, Mexi, whatever it is. And that's what you trade with. That's what you leave there. You buy, you sell based on hopefully a strategy that you've learned and been disciplined with. That's what you do. The $500 worth of crypto that you're going to own. So let's just say in this 500, you've got some Bitcoin, some ETH, some Solana, just to give you an example. I would move that onto a cold wallet. And I want to show you what that looks like, because it is got it literally here. So it looks something like this. So this is an example of a cold wallet. This is a Tangem. And all you do with this card is you just tap it on your phone, and that's where your assets sit. Now, the reason I really like the Tangem is one, because it's very easy to use, but two is because I'm taking my assets off the exchange into self-custody, really important, but it's offline. Okay, so it's not like it's linked to the internet all the time. So it's not like I've got to worry about someone hacking it. And the great thing about this is it actually comes with multiple cards. So you could have one card here, one card in a vault, one card, just in case, we've got to cater for emergencies. So I would definitely be holding my long term in a cold storage. Again, there's multiple options. Look at which one works for you, which one you prefer, right? That would be the first thing. And then the other 500 I'd hold on an exchange that you trust, where I would be doing my trading. Definitely would not keep them together.
That's really helpful. I did not, I kind of had an idea that it would actually look like a little card or a little wallet, but that's
actually
really
another one. Let me just show you the other one. There's a few different one out there. Here's another one. So this is a device.
Okay.
This is called the Ledger. Now, the reason, and again, I just talk about multiple. So I do have one of these. I have the X. This is the S, which is the smaller one. The reason I've moved away from this one is, as a coach, I need to use the one that's easiest, which is why I'm using the other one. But this one, you have to connect it to your phone. You've got to use this. It's got these little buttons at the bottom. I don't know if you can see them here. And you've got to enter a password. I just find it's a bit more, I guess, it's a bit harder to use than the card. Yes. But there are a few options out there.
Okay, good to know. And so if someone wanted to get started with that, they could just do it with $5, right? Just to get the practice in, to learn how to manipulate the card and move the stable coin back and forth on the exchanges, right?
And I think that's a crucial part, TJ, that you've brought up. Somebody told them to buy Bitcoin, maybe in the same situation that I was told so many years ago. And then they go, yep, I can do this. This isn't like just opening a bank account.
Yeah.
The thing about crypto is, while I do believe it will create generational wealth for many, it's also about being your own bank. So you have to be responsible for the security. You have to do the transactions. The banks no longer do it for you. And while someone would say, oh, well, I can just do that, it's easy. The reality is that people who don't know how, I guess they don't have the fundamentals in the space, they won't even know how to send Bitcoin from an exchange to a wallet.
Yeah.
Now, I'm talking thousands have been lost because they didn't know how to do that. So I recommend to anyone getting into crypto, there are 5 fundamental things you need to know how to do: buy, sell, send, receive, and then store, which is storing on a cold or a hot wallet. There's a couple of options, but you should be able, or you should learn how to do that, even in small amounts, before you get involved into anything else. Because again, you could lose your assets because you've sent it on the wrong chain, you sent it to the wrong place, you didn't look at the fees. There are so many different things we need to cater for.
Yeah. Well, thank you for explaining that to us, Nani. That's really good education. So tell me now about your trading. Like, I love charts. I dream about charts. I have for decades now. I love talking about markets. So do you trade off of daily charts, 4-hour, like this? I know crypto's 24/7. So tell me your process.
Okay, so I'm going to, so we use TradingView, and I'm going to talk about, there's 2 different types of TradingView. There is a premium account, and then there's a free account. So I'm just going to give you the details as if you were just running a free account. So we run off a 4-hour chart. The strategy was built on a 4-hour chart, and then we use 3 moving averages, right? And then based on those moving averages, we make the decisions. You have a very specific buy signal. So if that buy signal is there, that's your first confirmation. And then there are 2 other, there's actually 5, but I usually just focus on the 3 confirmations before we jump in. And then I keep it on the 4-hour. And the reason I tried I emphasize the hour is because, and you will know this, if I'm running on a 4-hour chart, it's going to look very different if I bring it down to a 15-minute chart.
For
right?
sure. Yep.
Now, the reason we do this is because I don't, and I'm sure, some of your listeners will be the same. I don't have time to sit here and watch charts all day. I'm not a day trader. I don't get in the morning, get in at night. I'm not saying I haven't, but I follow the strategy to a T. And the reason I do the 4-hour, again, it was built on the 4-hour, but also because I want to be able to do that mid to long term. What does that mean? That could mean I get into a trade today and I exit the trade a week later, 4 days later, right? Whether my stop loss has been hit or whether I've taken profit, again, I follow the strategy, but I'm not sitting there watching the charts 24/7, glued to a screen.
Right.
Again, crypto is 24/7, but I don't need to do that with this strategy.
Right. So I heard you just say you have a stop loss.
Correct.
And you have a take profit. Is that correct?
Correct. Yep.
So do you take it all out, the take profit, or do you take partials?
Excuse me. So I do scalping, which is, for those who don't know, is just the process where you take bits. So when I say bits, is I might take 50% out now and 50% out in the next trade. Now, that's an example, but it also depends on what the market's doing. I'll explain what I mean by that. If we are, so in crypto, we have bear runs and bull runs. Bull runs is when everything's going up. Bear runs is when everything's going down. So if we're smack in the middle of a bull run, everything's going up, I take smaller trades. So I might do 30%, 30%, and then let the last 40% run because I know it's going to keep on going up, right? But again, I can't control the market. Therefore, stop loss is important. But right now, while Bitcoin's still deciding what it's doing, I take only maybe a couple trades, 50 and 50, and I'm out, and I'm okay with that. So those percentages will depend on what the market's looking like.
Yeah. Thank you for explaining that. There are just thousands and thousands, it seems like, ways for all of us to trade and make decisions, take profit, scale in, scale out. So I really want the listeners to see all the different ways that there isn't just a handful of ways for them to make money, because many of them are work. They work a day job. And one good thing about crypto is, as we know, it trades 24/7. So if they're working during the day, if they wanted to contact you and learn from you and trade your strategy, inevitably there's going to be a 4-hour signal after they get off work that they could take sometime during the month, I would imagine.
Absolutely. And I think the great thing about the strategy that I teach is, again, one is that you don't need to be staring at a screen all day. Again, you could probably use the strategy on a smaller time frame, and you could do that, but you don't need to, which I think is the important part. But the other thing that I do as well is, so just to give you a bit of context in regards to that, what that course looks like. First is a few videos just to get you familiar with TradingView, because while TradingView is a great tool, it can be quite overwhelming, and with all the buttons that it has everywhere, there's things that you don't need to worry about. So that's what those videos show you. Our next session then shows you how to buy. Again, we go through those confirmations, what that looks like. And by the end of that session, you will know within 5 to 10 seconds of looking at a chart whether you should buy it or not. I open a chart and straight away go, no, it's not ready yet. And I don't, like you said, I don't emotional trade. I don't think it's going to do. Leave your thinking cap at home. Is it a buy on the strategy, yes or no? It's not, on to the next one. And then on the third session, we do the exit. Again, is just as important, if not more important, than the buy. Because if you don't know when you're going to get out, that's when people lose money. But then what we actually do is we also have a Telegram group. So what people who do the course can do is they jump into the Telegram, they get a month for free, and they can actually, hey, I'm looking at this chart. Does it look good? Or I know you told us the confirmations were this, but I'm not sure if I'm seeing it here. Or I might send a chart in and say, okay, guys, what are your thoughts? Let's do a poll. So it's a great way to use what you've learned in the course and then actually put it to practice, because, You might even decide to paper trade, and that just means you might draw on TradingView what you would have done without putting money in. And then that's a great way to kind of just confirm with the group and go, is this right? Did I miss something? So I do think it does become a journey, but it's a great journey to not have to take by yourself, but have, a supportive community that is there for you if you have any questions.
Yeah. Tell me why women should trade crypto, specifically women.
That goes deep. That goes deep, and I'll tell you why. So I'm going to try not to get too deep, but here we go. So as I mentioned earlier on, I'm a programmer. So I've always been amongst, I remember there was one time that I was working at a company. It was 10 guys and myself. So when it comes to the technical roles, to IT and that kind of stuff, it's usually a male-dominated space. And I guess when I got into crypto, my first train of thought was, I've got a daughter who back then was obviously much younger. She's now 21. But back then I was thinking, I would think of her and she knows about what I do. So she knows about crypto. And I thought, how cool would it be if I could teach my daughter about this? To me is, the next wave of finance, just like money became with credit cards. I believe this will probably be the next wave. And how it could significantly change her life. And so I see it as, women being mums and going, well, we could create generational wealth for our kids if that's something that you'd look at. Also see it from a standpoint of women don't need to depend on men, and that's a reality. Some women depend on men financially. What if you could learn how to do this and in your own time start using it and, maybe create yourself a bit of passive income? That would be another reason. But I do think that when you get involved with things like this, and I'm not just talking trading, I'm talking the world of crypto, I do think it's empowering. It's empowering to know that you are creating wealth, that you are involved with the next financial wave, that you are maybe dollar cost averaging and building, maybe a little safe for yourself, or maybe you've got one of the cards and you're starting to accumulate in there, whatever it may be. But it stops being you're not just standing on the stands anymore, just watching everyone else do it. You're actually doing it yourself.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think women are quite scared, and this is, I do a lot of networking events here in Australia as well. And a lot of the feedback that we get, because we do a lot of women's events here, is why don't women get involved? What's stopping you from getting involved? The common misconception is it's really hard. Look, I'm not going to say it's easy, but I've taught people all the way from, and I'm kidding not, my youngest, it was a girl, she was 14, all the way up to 65. So anybody can do this because it is very simple. And again, maybe because of the way I teach it and the feedback that I've received, I try and make it as simple as possible, which is why it's Crypto Made Simple. And again, we've had females and males, and believe it or not, the females that come onto the course and do the course, I have not had one person go, I don't get it. It is doable. It is possible. Again, not just the trading crypto. This is for everyone.
Yeah.
It is a matter of going, I want to learn about it, finding someone. It could be me, it could be TJ, it could be someone else that you resonate with. But I do believe that women can trade, participate in crypto. They just need to get educated on it.
Nani, why do you think women, I mean, I hear this all the time, that women think it's going to be too difficult. What is it in our raising of girls gives them that impression that this is boys can do it, but girls can't?
Look, the reality is that, and when I first started, and I'm going to be very transparent here, when I first started being a coach in this space, and I did it because I went, if I don't get it, and I've got a technical brain, and I couldn't find information about it, there would be other people out there that can't, right? So when I started doing it, and I tried to find everything that I found, and I'm not exaggerating when I say everything, was a man on a video, was a man, was a blog from a guy, was so I feel like women maybe haven't been brought up in that technical space. Again, because I'm a programmer, my brain kind of thinks differently. Even now when we were trying to troubleshoot the audio, I'm like,
Right.
okay,
Yeah.
let's try this, let's try that, because that's how my brain works. But I do think that maybe women are, or have been in the past, guided towards different kind of roles that don't include the technical side. And maybe somebody like me, I walked into a classroom when I was in, I think it was like 12 at the time, and went, wonder what happens when I press the button on a computer. Back then they had one computer in the room, and I'd press the button. I'm like, why does it do that? That's what my brain, nobody said to me, you can't do it. I was like, yep, that's what I want to be. And I became, and I did IT and consulting for like 30 years and loved it. But I do feel like women have gone for different roles, whether, and even regardless, whether you're a stay-at-home mum or anything, I can tell you now that even if you're at home and you feel, oh, but I don't know how to look at a chart. I'd never looked at a chart in my life when I started trading. It's I want to do this and I can do it.
Yeah.
It's a, do not think that you can't. Do not think that this is made just for, I don't know, computer geeks. Well, I am one. It is for anyone and everybody who is looking for that generational wealth.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you see, from the guys and the girls that you teach, how do you see them self-sabotage? Because I see self-sabotage a lot in the trading community.
Yeah. The one thing is not believing in themselves. Can't do this. You can. Let me show you how you can. And it's funny because we start the course and I say, by the end of it, you'll do this. And maybe like half of the time, their response is, I don't think I'm going to be able to do it that quickly. You've got to go in believing that you can. And I truly believe that. I truly believe that you can do anything you set your mind to. The other thing is, this is in trading, but also in crypto, is, and I know you said it right at the beginning, when you get into trading, and again, whether it's mine, whether it's someone else's, choose a strategy and use it. And do not deviate from it, and do not go down another track because I think, no. Sorry, I don't want you to think. This is not about emotional trading. This is about having a very clear strategy and following it. So we'll be because I'm very much now you do what I taught you kind of a deal when we're doing the course, and I'll be like, okay, so what about this chart? And they're like, no, I would sell, for example. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Tell me why. And they're like, okay. And then we go through what we just learned. Oh, wait, but I thought, right? So when I say they self-sabotage, it's they don't follow the strategy because they either have forgotten it or because it looks like it's going to do something different. But the strategy is there for a reason. If you follow it to a T, then it's so. I do think that would probably be the second thing. The third and final thing is the actual lack of education, I think, is a big deal because people will jump into this space. Again, someone told them to buy Bitcoin and they went and did it and they don't know what they're doing. And while I stick to this is easy and I can make it easy for anybody who's willing to learn, you do need to learn how to do it. Right. I think, again, that is a big part of it. People need to get educated. We here in Australia, I've done workshops. I'm currently working on a mentorship club where women, just so happens to be a women's group where women can come and join us, and we'll be doing workshops and they can jump into a Telegram group and we can educate them. Like, I am a big fan of going, I think it's great that you're in crypto, but do you have the support you need? Do you have a mentor who can guide you? Do you have someone who can teach you what you need to know? I'm saying you need, a mentorship forever, but somebody who will guide you while you are comfortable to then take that next step and go, okay, I'm going to try this. I've even got clients that I've had for years, maybe they've been with me for 2 years. Okay, I'm good. Then they go do their thing. Like 6 months later, they're like, I'm now in a different situation. I'm using a different wallet. I'm stuck. Can you help me? Absolutely. So the opportunities are there to either do a monthly thing, or no, I'll come back to you when I need you, or no, I just need the course and then the Telegram group, and then they continue with the Telegram subscription. There are a lot of options for people wanting to get educated in this space.
Yeah. What do you think is causing people not to get educated? Do you think it's the cost, or do you think it's lack of knowledge, lack of motivation? Because
Probably all of the above. I think a big one would probably be the cost. People go, oh, I wouldn't be bothered paying for that. What if it doesn't work? I think another one is I can do it. I'll figure it out. And maybe they're not aware of the, I guess, the issues that people have seen. I've seen that firsthand. I've seen people lose thousands of dollars because they didn't do it properly. But I think probably the other one is, which is the one that still boggles my mind, is I don't need it. I don't need to get educated. I don't even need to be in crypto. I am good where I am now, whether that is you've got a wage or, but I always say you had a wage and I say to you, okay, what if you could make an extra, I don't know, let's throw a number, $300 a month. And then someone goes, yeah, but that's not a lot. I'm like, okay, that's over $3,000 a year.
Right.
$300 a month could mean, you know what, that, let's look at a bill, that electricity bill that you pay every month, this income is now going to cover that. So what I work with people as well is we look at, okay, how do I increase my income gradually? Doesn't need to be $1 million overnight. And we maybe go from $30 a month to $300 a month. And it will start to significantly impact what I earn. Right. That may mean, look, you may love your job. You may think, I don't want to leave my job. And that's great. I quit my job 4.5 years ago because now I get to do this full time, which is something that I love. But what if that extra 300 is like, no, I'm paying all my bills. What was that? What if that was vacation money? What if at the end of the year, you no longer had to come up with money to go on vacation? That would be we're going to X place because this money has now been accumulated from what I learned in crypto and the trading and whatever it is you decide to get involved in. Right. So I do think there are people who, because of their lack of education and because they haven't gotten involved in this space, I don't need it. I can live without it, which is fine. I'm sure you can. But what if that could add to your wealth? And I do believe that anybody who accumulates digital assets, again, what we were talking about before, that generational wealth will mean this isn't just for you. This would be great to pass down generations as crypto continues to increase and become more mainstream than it already is.
What do you want women to know about trading in general?
It's not as hard as it looks. And I know that's probably a very a statement that someone just heard and went, for you, maybe it's not. Trust me, I was you. I was that person that had never looked at a chart. I didn't know what a candle was, a wick, a body, a support, a resistance. And I know I'm just throwing out terms. I didn't know what any of it meant. But if it's something that you wish to learn, I believe any woman can learn to trade.
Yeah. Thank you, Nani. Thank you, Nanicrypto.
My pleasure.
This has been such a joy to speak to you, and you've educated me. So thank you. Where can women find you, or people in general? Where can they find you?
So I have probably the best and easiest way is jump over to my website, nanicrypto.com. You can find me all over socials, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn as Nanicrypto. Just be very aware there's a lot of fake accounts. So if you go into my nanicrypto.com, jump into my links, there's a link tree there, and that will give you not only all of the links where you can find me, it also gives you the links of all the stuff that I've shared here today, the platforms that I use, the trading view. We spoke about a couple of exchanges, the card, everything is in there. And that's probably the best way to find me.
All right, great. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Please like and subscribe and share this with someone and leave a comment. I want to hear from you guys. If you know other women that are trading and they want to be interviewed, please have them contact me. Or if you have a chart you want me to analyze and look at, I'll put it up on YouTube and do that for you. So thank you so much. And remember, real women trade.
Thanks, CJ.